What's up guys, Mason the Brock Henderson here. So no intro today because I don't have time, and I'm also just pissed off and don't really want to make some goofy intro because the fact of the matter is, this is Champions League gone. This is the end of our Champions League campaign because if we can't beat Ipswich at home, we're not going to win any matches. We're not going to win enough to be able to be in Champions League at the end of the season. And all it comes down to, the end of the story is we did not put forth enough effort today. We were outworked, we were outplayed, we were out-desired, if that's a word. The other team wanted it more. They beat us to almost every 50-50 in the first half, which is why they scored 2 goals. And all it's going to take is a better team than Ipswich. They're going to put 4 past us in the first half. And we're not going to have a chance to come back and nick a point from a game where we didn't even deserve to be in it. It's pathetic performance, pathetic desire from the team, lack of effort. It stems from the owners not bringing in the right players that want to be here, that have a desire to play for this club, and a coach that can't get that desire out of these players. He doesn't know what he's doing. His tactics are awful. He's playing players that don't deserve to be playing. I mean, the players, they've got to show more too. Everybody at this club needs to be fired. We need to bring in players. First of all, we should not be getting rid of so many academy players because that's where some of that desire comes from. You want to know why we won the Champions League in 2021? Well, it's because we had players that actually cared. We had players that actually wanted to fight for the club. We don't have that anymore. All these players, they don't have a connection to this club. They're just here for the money. This is what you get. But we'll start with Maresca. His lineup, pretty standard, except for the fact that, one, you've gone without a right back. So James, for some reason, doesn't start. Don't know why. And it's funny because I was asking in the Legia match, why does he keep starting Sancho whenever Sancho shows no reason to start? Well, then Sancho goes and gets 2 assists against Legia, and then he gets benched. And then he comes on and scores a goal. So maybe you shouldn't have benched him today. It's so weird that he would not bench him no matter how little he was involved in the matches. No matter how little effort he put forth, he would not bench him. He gets 2 assists, he benches him. Clearly that was a mistake because he comes off and he does well. He gets us a goal and ties it up. On top of that, his other 2 subs were they were shit. You bring on Gusto at halftime. You've got James sitting on the bench. You bring on Gusto at halftime. How the hell does that make sense? Explain that to me. Gusto's been probably our worst player over our past set of matches, and somehow he's the one that comes off the bench. And guess what he gives you? Absolutely nothing. And then we're searching for a goal to go win the match, and you bring on Nkuku for Jackson. How does that make sense? The man who can't score, who kills our attack every time he's playing, you bring him on? And so what do you expect? We don't score a goal. I'm shocked. Like, it's so stupid. He should be fired after this performance and after this result. Because to not beat Ipswich is just the crux of stupidity from him. So, I mean, I've been Maresca out for a little while now, but this should be the final nail in the coffin for a lot of Chelsea fans that are maybe that overly positive fan that's just trying to look for every positive thing, that are looking at the positives of the Brentford draw last weekend. How can you get positives out of today? This is not a positive draw. To draw against one of the worst teams in the league, a team that is definitely getting relegated this season, you can't even beat them at home. How can you not want the manager out after this? But going quickly through all the players, Sanchez, I mean, nothing really could do today. Once again, he's required to make passes because the manager sets us up, so we have to use him for his feet, even though he doesn't have a good pass. Why? Because the manager's an idiot. In the first half, you had Chalobah on the right, Tosin, Colwill, and then Cucurella on the left. Nobody in the defense really played well today. I mean, Cucurella, obviously, he was involved with the first goal. It ends up coming off Twanzebe for the own goal. I mean, he was typically his energetic self, but his defense today was awful. And it's what I've seen from him before, that lack of awareness, the naivete from him defensively. It shows itself occasionally, and today was a good example of it. He's diving into so many challenges, and honestly, most of our defense was. It was so easy for these Ipswich players to just do a little flick around, and our defense is beaten because we're flying into everything. We're not breaking down. We're not being smart with our defending. And the first goal is something I've seen from our defense probably about 10 times this season, where all it takes is one player getting in between our 2 center defenders. They're completely unaware of where he is. Easy goal. Tosin, Colwill, no idea where he is. Tosin knows where he is, but he's not stepping in. And Colwill completely blindsided because he does not look behind him. Anytime a cross comes in, no head on a swivel, there's somebody making a run right in behind him, he's not going to see him. And he's going to let the ball go, and then they're going to go score because that's what he's weak on. and he never learns from it. I have to ask questions of the coaching staff again. If you see that happen, if you see that mistake happen multiple times and you don't fix it, why are you there? What's your job? I will also say, really disappointed in Chalobah today because he's probably one of the best decisions we made in January. One of the few decisions we made was to bring Chalobah back on loan because he has looked really solid. Today, he was pretty bad. Diving into challenges, he got beat way too easily several times. And then that header right at the end, right to the striker, or it wasn't Delap, it was Clark, I think, just easily nods it down for him to have a chance. What the hell was that? Caicedo and Fernandez in the middle honestly got kind of run over today. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was different from what we saw against Brentford, because I thought against Brentford they looked pretty solid. They looked like they controlled the midfield for the most part. Today, I don't know if it was just the movement from Ipswich, maybe we're drawing them out of positions, or they just weren't on it, but it felt like they were getting beat way too easily. They were getting beat to the ball. Ipswich players had plenty of time to play through the middle. It was really pathetic showing from both of them, and I'm not used to seeing that. They've been two of our best players for most of this season. Up into the front four, Neto, nothing from him today, mostly just crosses, which were not working. I didn't talk about that. I wanted to mention that at the beginning, but our crossing today was terrible. We probably put in a good 20, 25 crosses, and I don't think one of them turned into a goal. And I'm not talking about the low-driven cross, because obviously that turned into the own goal. The lofted crosses, none of them worked out. We had one Chalobah header at the very end that got blocked by Palmer. Everything else, it was terrible. Defense was getting to it. It was overhit. It was to the first defender. None of them worked, and we kept trying it for some reason. We had, 13, 14 corners? And only one worked out, and it was the one where we dropped it into Sancho and he cut in and had a shot instead of trying to cross it. Our crossing was not working today, and we kept doing it. It's just a sign of insanity, expecting a different result. But Neto was the worst of it because he was the one that was putting in the most crosses, and so many of them were terrible crosses. And his shooting today as well. He had several chances to cut inside and have a shot, and it was awful. It was back passes or mishit and flying wide. Madueke, obviously, he's the one that put in the cross for the first goal. But outside of that, I mean, a lot of it was what I'm used to seeing from him. He's taking too long on the ball. He's trying to do too much on it. Ipswich is ready for that. They're putting 2 or 3 guys over there, so he doesn't have the time and space to do anything. So his selfishness once again killed us. Palmer in the middle, not much from him today. I mean, it was a pretty lackluster performance from him. And he's in a bad run of form, and he's not getting out of it. So we are going to have to start asking the question, do we need a manager who's going to find a way to get our best player to be our best player again? Because clearly whatever Maresca is doing is not getting that out of him. You know, I've seen glimpses of the Palmer that we are used to seeing throughout the past few matches. Today, I didn't see any glimpses of it. Even the one shot that he had, it was pathetic. It was weak. It was at the perfect height for the keeper. Nothing like what we're used to seeing from him. So clearly Maresca is not getting the best out of him anymore. I think it's time to move on from this manager then. And then Jackson up top, kind of the same thing with Palmer. You know, we've seen him be so energetic, so dynamic up front, and outside of a couple of moments, nothing of that today. So I don't know what Maresca did. I don't know what he changed. I don't know what he told him. But whatever he did, it got the worst out of our 2 most exciting players in our front line. Maybe not the most dangerous when you think about Jackson as finishing, but he still creates several chances because of his work rate. And he just did not today because of either how we were set up or how Maresca was utilizing him today. As far as the subs that came on, Gusto, I mean, when it came on, I was really disappointed because him over James makes no sense. And sure enough, his performance justified that thinking. Terrible crosses, terrible passes, terrible defending. He was probably our worst player, which is shocking considering how bad we were in the first half, that somebody that came on in the second half was our worst player, but he by far was. Sancho comes on and, like I said, gets himself a goal. Questions about why he wasn't starting are going to be brought up considering his 2 assists against Legia. And I'm sure it's going to be, oh, I was just resting him. I'm sorry, you cannot rest players anymore in the Premier League. You did it last weekend against Brentford. Look what happened. Now you did it this weekend with Sancho, presumably. Look what happened. He comes off the bench and he should have been starting. And then Nkuku, I think he fouled a guy. So it's something. He did something today. He fouled somebody. That sub makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. So with all that being said, though, 2 points dropped at home. We're almost out of the Champions League running. I'm sure our last 4 matches are going to absolutely kill us, maybe even knock us out of Europe. And if we don't win in the Conference League, then we're not going to have Europe next season. And Maresca is going to have failed miserably. What do you expect whenever you bring in a manager from the Championship and then bring in a bunch of players that are not experienced. This is what you get. So Maresca out, Blueco out. It's time to boycott. It's time to boycott these matches as fans. It's time to walk out or something. People have to start actually costing the club money, or else they're not going to want to make a change. As long as people put up with the mediocrity, we're going to keep getting mediocrity. With all that being said, those are my thoughts on the game today. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on there as well as some Let's Plays. So check those out if you have time. But until next time, hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.